Good afternoon. My name is Greg Musil. I'm the chair of the 2021 Charter Commission. I will call our September 22, 2021 meeting to order. The first thing we will do is have roll call. Ms. Sater.
Wendy Bingesser. Wendy. Okay, we'll come back to her. Mike Bain. Karen Brownlee. Not here at the time. Vicki Charlesworth. Not here right now.
Vicki is
Jim
on
Denny.
Zoom.
Excuse me, Aaron.
Vicki is on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you.
Vicki Charlesworth present, sorry.
Thanks. Jim Denny. He is here. Jane Dirks. Not present right now. Jimmy Gaona. Not present. Tedrick Hausch. Thank you. Randy Hutchins.
Randy Hutchins here.
Thank you. Chris Iliff.
Here.
Laura Klingensmith.
Laura Klingensmith present.
Joy Costin. Thank you. Brent McCune. Thank you. Eric Michelson. Thank you. Ed Peterson. Thanks. Don Rattan.
Dawn Rattan is present.
Thank you. Leslie Riverola.
Leslie Riverola is present.
Thank you. Don Roberts. Not present at the time.
Don Roberts is present on Zoom.
Okay. Don, can you speak?
Yep, I can. Sorry, I had my second mute button muted.
Thank you. Kyle Russell. Thank you. Paula Swack. Thank you. Brenda Sharp.
Brenda Sharp present.
Thank you. Greg Shelton.
Greg Shelton, present.
Thank you. Greg Smith. Thanks. Zach Thomas.
Zach Thomas present.
Thank you. Chair Musil.
Chair Musil here.
Do we have Wendy Bingesser? Karen Brownlee? Jane Dirks? Jimmy Gaona? Okay. I have 21 with 4 absent at this time.
Karen Brownlee is here, as is Jimmy Gaona. So we're up to 23 out of the 25 members are here. We do have a quorum. I think at the opening of the meeting, I want to make a couple comments for benefit of the public. Similar to what I made last time with respect to what the role of the Charter Commission is. Our role is to review the Home Rule Charter, and our authority is to recommend items to be placed on the ballot that would be next November. We have no authority to make changes to the charter ourselves. And we have scheduled, or will schedule, talk about today, 2 public hearings. We are obligated to have 1 by the current charter, and by statute, we will have 2. And we will talk about those in a little bit to make sure we have public input on the current Home Rule Charter and potential changes. There is, based on some of the information I've seen, there's a definitional issue that I want to cover. Every meeting of the Charter Commission is an open public meeting under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and we are subject to the Kansas Open Meetings Act. So every meeting that we have had in the past, today's meeting, and every meeting in the future will be available for the public to view, either in person or by Zoom or other virtual thing. Early on during the emergency order, we held a number of meetings that were Zoom only. Since I don't exactly know the date, probably sometime in July, we have held hybrid meetings where members of the public and members of the commission may appear virtually and others may appear in person. But we will always have a public open meeting. With respect to public hearings, as I indicated, we have to have one. We committed early on to have two, and a public hearing is the opportunity for the public to make comment and give testimony about what they would like to keep, what they would like to change, et cetera, with respect to the home rule charter. So if a notice goes out that says it's a public meeting but not a public hearing, that is to inform the public that we will not be taking public hearing testimony or public hearing comment at that meeting, but it is nonetheless a public open meeting. So I hope that is helpful to folks to understand. We are not hiding by having a meeting that doesn't have a public hearing, because all of our meetings will in fact be public and open and available to the public in two formats. With that, and with respect to tonight's meeting, I want to thank Sheriff Hayden for providing some security here in the form of uniformed officers so that everybody here can feel comfortable that we can do our duty in a safe environment. So thanks to Sheriff Hayden for that. The next item on the agenda under approvals are consideration of 3 sets of minutes from Monday, September 13th and August 20. Well, first, I guess we have to approve today's agenda. Today's agenda includes 2 things: scheduling of the public hearing and information on that, and then review of the charter itself. Is there anybody that has any questions about the agenda or would like to make a motion to approve today's agenda as published?
Motion to approve the agenda as published.
Motion by Mayor Paula Schwach and seconded by Mayor Eric Michelson to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, no. That motion passes unanimously. So we will proceed with today's agenda. We also have 2 sets of minutes to consider, August 25th and then September 13th. I'm going to ask for those to be moved jointly. If anybody has any additions or corrections to the minutes, we'll take up the individual meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to either of those 2 meetings? Yes, Mr. Smith.
September 13 meeting,
Yes, sir.
we have no vote count for the adjournment.
I could not hear a vote count to be certain. I declared that the motion had passed based on what I thought I heard in the room and what I thought I heard on Zoom. So I don't know if there's any way to fix that other than to indicate, if you want to indicate in the minutes, that the chair believed there was a majority and adjourned the meeting in accordance with his belief. If you want that correction, we can certainly add that.
Chair Musel, the reason it was written the way it is because we could not get a full account of the ayes and the nays. And you do have the right just to adjourn the meeting. So I listed the person that moved, the person that seconded, and then you adjourn the meeting. So that is the reason it was written up that way.
Is there a
Is
motion?
there a change? that you
Is there a
would like?
motion to amend those minutes in some fashion?
If it's possible, I mean, it'd be
Sure.
nice to know, particularly after the aftermath of that meeting, some of us stayed behind. I think the public would like to know what the vote was on that.
Well, we will never know the exact vote given the noise that was in the room. So I guess the question is whether, I'm not sure how to fix that, Greg, other than reflect that, and maybe this is what it is, that the chairman made the call to adjourn the meeting.
And that's fine,
And
just
that-
so there's some note in there on
Right.
what happened.
With the explanation here on the record, then I think perhaps probably the minutes as presented with Chairman Musil adjourned the meeting is probably adequate, but I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, this is Chris Iliff, and I was attending by Zoom, and all I can say is that based upon the chaos and anarchy that was presented by the audience that was there, who were unwilling to comply with the rules of the University of Kansas, that I certainly voted for adjournment at that time. It seemed like it would have been a fruitless and useless endeavor to go on from that point. But, let the record reflect what it does. I think that the chairman did the best he could under very trying circumstances.
I'm not sure of a procedure to go back and retroactively vote for an adjournment. So my view would be to leave it the way it is, Greg, with the discussion that we've had here. I'm perfectly willing to, and have said, I could not hear everybody's vote. I know you were across the room
Yeah.
doing this.
I didn't even hear the motion.
So I heard a motion in a second. I asked for a vote. I believed I heard a majority of people say aye. I regret if you couldn't even hear the motion to vote on it.
I mean, if the record could just reflect it was a voice vote.
But I would be happy to say it was a voice vote and the chair adjourned the meeting
Mr.
based on
Chair,
his.
I recall you requesting a hand vote.
I did
Yes.
I did request a hand vote. I think that was a similar result, but I guess I would have obviously counted at least a majority of the people that were here. So I would prefer if we want to leave it on my shoulders, I adjourn the meeting based on my belief that a majority of the members had moved to adjourn. But it was confusing to all of us. So with that correction, is there a motion to approve the minutes as
I have
amended?
one more question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The Charter Commission statement, is that part of the minutes?
It is not part of the, I don't care if it's part of the minutes or not. I think Linda put it in here because I thought it ought to be in there for me speaking as chair of the commission. So I think it can be posted on the website, but it doesn't need to be part of the minutes, in my opinion.
I was just wondering if it was part of the official minutes or if the minutes were just the written portion there.
In discussing with legal, the reason I attached it was for history purposes, that if, just as we have sometimes tried to go back and read the minutes, legal and I felt like it was giving a better picture if somebody looked at that with the attachment of the statement of that. But if the board chooses for me to amend those minutes and take that off, I can so do that.
Ms. Dunham.
As Linda said, to confirm, there was concern that if someone's going back and looking at these minutes to try to have some explanation in there to explain why there wasn't a public hearing.
I would suggest we put on the minutes that there is an addendum statement made by the chair following the meeting that is not part of the official minutes, but have them attached chronologically so that in the future people can find those.
I'd be good with that.
Okay. I guess with anything else from anybody on the two sets of minutes? If not, then we'll have the two changes. One is to reflect that the chair's belief of majority support of the adjournment motion to adjourn, and that the chair's statement will be appended, but is not part of the official minutes. Is there a motion to that effect? Mr. Greg Smith moves. And Brent McCune seconds. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Zoomers, I never give you enough time to answer. Anybody opposed, say no. The minutes for those meetings are approved with the amendments to the September 13th, 2021 meeting minutes. We have no old business. The two items of new business, and I know we want to get to the charter. I want to explain what we've been working with staff on. Our proposal at this point to the commission is that we hold what will now be the first public hearing and we believe we will hold it at the Olathe Embassy Suites in their ballroom, which has a capacity a large capacity to hold a large number of people, and hold that on October 11th. Again, I believe we were going from 5:30 to 7:30. And that public hearing would be a mask recommended only, so that individual citizens who are uncomfortable, have a medical condition, or simply don't want to wear a mask can present at that public hearing. The second public hearing, for which we do not yet have a confirmed venue or date, although I would like to hold it the next meeting date, which is October 27th, from 5:30 to 7:30. We would ask that that public hearing be mask required, so that folks who are comfortable in a mask required environment only would have the opportunity to attend in person. The format for both hearings would include a Zoom opportunity, so you could present as a member of the public virtually, or you could come and you could pre-register as an in-person speaker, or you could sign up in person at the event. The other thing is that anybody that had pre-registered for the public hearing we had scheduled for September 13th would be given first, they would stay in front of the line. And we would take their testimony first. So that's our effort to find a way to accommodate everybody that wants to speak in a manner that hopefully makes everyone comfortable that they've had an opportunity to appear in person before this commission if they choose to do so. So I'm throwing that out. That is something executive committee has discussed and we've discussed with staff, but wanted to put it on the agenda today to see what your thoughts were. Mayor Boehm? Oh, you need to please use the microphone.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mike Bang. We had two scheduled, so would there be a third meeting at a later date once we get down the road, or would that now replace those two proposed meetings?
Well, the notion would be that these two meetings would satisfy our two public hearing commitments. I mean, at one time, I know we talked about spreading them out, so the second one had maybe a different focus than the first one, given the split that we have now about how people can participate. We decided going back to back on those two public hearings would be a better scenario. But again, open to questions or thoughts.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Sharp.
on this, I think this sounds like a good potential compromise. I'm not confident that we won't have people showing up at the second hearing not wearing a mask. How will those individuals be addressed prior to entering the facility?
It will depend on the venue that we end up using as to what opportunities there are to either segregate the two, I'm going to call it the two sides. I don't know any other easy way to do it. And the effort will be, and I will hope people will exercise common courtesy if they've had an opportunity to speak at the first public hearing, to allow others to speak at the other public hearing that they may disagree with as with respect to masks. But I can't tell you today that I can guarantee, or that anybody can guarantee, that the second hearing won't include members of the public who may attend in masks and take masks off, or may attend without masks in order to indicate their preferences.
So I guess in order to avoid another situation like last week, I would want this group to have some understanding of how we will handle that if we end up in another similar situation as we were last week, that we know what we will do in advance, including adjourning again, just so that we're all clear on that potential action and what the threshold will be before we reach that, so that we have a clear understanding before we're in a similar situation.
I agree. And one thing I will tell everybody, we do intend to have uniform law enforcement officers at all future meetings and public hearings, so long as it appears that may be necessary, so that we can do our business in a way that is fair to everybody concerned and lets us get done by our late January, early February deadline, which will soon be looming. So that's the best I can tell you today, Brenda.
Okay, and then just one last question, Mr. Chair. Is there any other way for us to be notified as a group? I think many of us were caught unawares as to what had circulated, the misinformation that had circulated prior to arrival. And I feel badly that all those people showed up with a lot of misconceptions about what our level of authority is. Is there a way for us to be notified that we're walking into that kind of a situation? I felt like you all did the best you could, but I probably would have chosen to engage by Zoom to begin with, just from a personal safety standpoint.
Well, I suppose there is, but we don't have the resources to monitor all social media or all other avenues where somebody is indicating that an action will be taken that isn't actually on the agenda. I do want, maybe this is a good time to speak to it so the public understands. If we are going to consider any proposed amendment, that amendment will be identified on the agenda by a summary of its terms. It won't simply say, consider proposed amendments. We'll put the amendments in the order that they were received, and so that the public can know if an amendment is on the table to eliminate the chair of the Charter Commission for 2021, it will be on the agenda. So nobody has to guess. I saw information today that there was not any information on the agenda about what we were going to consider in terms of amendments. That's because we're not considering any amendments. We're considering two items: our future public hearings, and then the review of the charter. So we will, in fact, post those. And I think to the extent we have information, we can try to get more information out to members of the Charter Commission ahead of a meeting. But I don't know that anybody has the ability to predict the level of public interest or turnout. I think we can assume our two public hearings will be active and crowded. Beyond that, I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor. I had you second and
point
I
of
forgot.
inquiry. As you know, every other Monday, I'm in city council meeting, which means that on the 11th of October, I would have difficulty hearing the comments made by the public. I'm just wondering if there's any other mayor who has similar difficulty, because we have moved the time backs by an hour and a half.
Right, right. And our consideration was that these meetings will be recorded and that you will have an opportunity to review all of the public hearing. The public hearings are not intended for the members of the commission to ask questions, make comments, interpret statements from the audience, but simply to receive them.
Thank
And
you,
so you'll
Mr.
be in this-
Chairman. You've responded. They're recorded and I can
Yeah.
view it that way.
I think everybody will have the same opportunity to receive the same public input. But I understand it's a burden for you and maybe Mayor Michelson. Are you Mondays?
Yeah.
But not the, okay,
Yeah, that one would not be a problem for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
all right. Other questions? If there are other ideas, feel free to email me. Otherwise, we're going to proceed with planning the next public hearing, the first public hearing, October 11th, likely to be at the Olathe Embassy Suites. We will confirm that and get notice out as soon as possible. It will be mask recommended. We will ensure that the commission members are separated by some distance from the larger audience, because we have members of the commission that are concerned about that. And we will, I think we'll try to, hopefully we can try to alert people who pre-registered that they will be up at the front end of that discussion. So, Mayor Bain.
Just to confirm, both meetings will have a Zoom option for the public if they don't want to take a risk on showing up either, or.
Yes, both, Zoom option will be available for both. And that's part of what limits our options on venues, is to have the technology where we can do that in an efficient manner and frankly, in a more affordable manner for taxpayers. With that, I'm going to have us move into review of the charter. As I thought about this over the weekend, I could not come up with a good way that we would do this. I think Do all the members of the public that are here have a copy of the current home rule charter? Oh, no, they've got the agenda. Let's get you, we've got some extra copies, I think. The home rule charter is available on our website. Looks like this. The website is charter.jocogov or jocogov.org.charter, if I remember right. You can go to that and look at the current home rule charter, which is what we're charged with reviewing. I think what I'll just simply do is go through each section and see if people have questions or comments about it. I thought about reading it so that members of the public that don't have it in front of them can hear it, but I think that would take time from our discussion or thoughtfulness, and anybody can get access to it and comment on it at the public hearing, or send your comments to the website and they will be circulated to everybody on the commission. So the first section is, what is the charter? And it simply explains that in November 7, 2000, okay, it is up on the Zoom and the board. November 7th of 2000, the voters of Johnson County adopted the home rule charter pursuant to state statute. And it was reviewed again in 2011 with no amendments being recommended by that charter commission. I guess, does anybody have any questions or issues or clarifications about the preamble, which is the we, the people of Johnson County? Let's move to Article 1, powers of the county, which in Article 1.01, Section 1.01 is powers of the county. 1.02 is how they are executed. And 1.03 is construction or how to interpret the charter, should there be questions about the general powers stated in it. Any questions about Article 1? And as I mentioned in my email to the commission earlier this week, the purpose of tonight, I don't think, is to argue or persuade or advocate for different interpretations or changes, but to make sure if there are questions about what something means, we try as a group to evaluate that and answer it with the able help of our legal counsel and our deputy county manager. I'm going to move on then to Article 2, which is how the Board of County Commissioners is organized. 2.01 is the composition, 6 district commissioners and 1 at-large commission chair. 2.02 is terms of office. Everybody serves 4-year terms and they're staggered so that 3 of the district commissioners are elected every 2 years, with the other 3 being in the next 2-year election, and the chair serving a 4-year term before standing for election. 2.03 is qualifications. You have to be a qualified elector in the county, which means basically eligible to vote. 2.04 says there will be 7 county commission districts. 6 of them will be equal in population. The 7th district is the entire county. The entire county is who elects the commission chair. And the district shall be subject to alteration at least once every 3 years, primarily to match population changes. And I know that based on the 2020 census, there are 2 districts which are farther from the ideal number of voters or citizens than the other 4. So the commission will need to take that up at some point. Section 2.505 is compensation. The commission determines the salary and benefits of its members, and the chair is to receive compensation at least 25%. Additional compensation, no less than 25% of the base compensation of the commissioners. So if the commissioners make $1, the county chair makes $1.25 at a minimum. And that can be set higher than that, but not lower. Section 2.06 is the duties of the chair. And there are 10 different duties in bullet points there. Might be a good place to stop and see if there are questions about duties of the chair. If you are on Zoom as a member of the commission, please speak up if you have questions or comments. Section 2.07 includes prohibitions, what commission members cannot do, including directly interfere with the conduct of any agency or department, including the appointment or removal of employees, except at the direction of the entire commission. And no former commission member, county commission member shall hold any compensated point of office or county employment until at least 1 year after leaving office. So if you're elected as a county commissioner, you cannot hold a county compensated job until at least 1 year after you leave office. Section 2.08 is the initial commissioner districts that were established April 1 of 2002, before redistricting that has occurred since then. 2.09, meetings of the commission conducted as provided by law, which essentially is governed by statute, including the requirements to meet the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The general public shall have the opportunity to attend and participate in such meetings. Yes, Mayor? Can you use the microphone? That better recording and then everybody can hear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the paragraph 2.08, we are no longer dealing with initial commissioner districts. And it seems to me, therefore, there's no longer a need for talking about what has happened in the past here.
Section 2.8 does deal with initial commissioner districts, which is no longer necessary. So it would just be an unused section of the charter.
Or could
So
be deleted.
Right. Deletion would require an amendment placed on the ballot. So I think when we get to that point, I think it's somewhat similar to the May 1st capital budget thing. It's probably I don't want to necessarily evaluate it this way, but clerical or administrative change that could be offered. It's superseded is what your point is. Right? Karen Brownlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask about section 2.07 prohibitions, where it says shall not directly interfere with the conduct of any agency or department. What would be examples of interference that a commission member might do?
I would speculate, having seen it in other governmental agencies where an elected official goes into a department and says, I don't think I got a good answer from Greg Musil and I want you to do something about it. Those types of internal personnel departmental matters are not to be delved into by individual commissioners.
But could it be beyond personnel matters?
I would think individual commissioners could not go in and say, I don't like your internal policy, you should change it, as opposed to doing it at a commission meeting where the commission would direct some change or ask the county manager to review it. Again, I think later we get into the part about we have a county manager form of government, and that I think this prohibition was intended to leave the discretionary acts of administration and management to the county manager, unless the entire board of county commissioners delves into it. That's how I interpret that.
Do we need any further clarification on that?
Ms. Dunham,
Let
Cynthia
me-
Dunham is our legal counsel.
Let me try to provide a little bit of clarification. As you get later on in your review here, you're going to get to the specific sections, as the chair has already noted. What are the responsibilities of the county manager? The very first one will be the daily administrative functions of the government. And then as you get farther along, we have, for example, a section on reorganization of county government. An individual commissioner would not have unilateral powers to do that type of reorganization or administrative functions that are vested. For example, reorganizations vested in the entire county commission. And there's a number of duties and responsibilities vested in the county manager. So, so some of this, I think, will be clear as we go through this.
Thank you.
Article 3 is the method of election of county commissioners, section 3.01, commissioners to be elected on a nonpartisan basis. Section 3.02 are qualifications of the commissioners. Section 3.03 is how vacancies are filled. And those are filled at this point by the remainder of the county commission shall fill a vacancy within 90 days of the occurrence. And the replacement will serve until the end of the term to which he or she is appointed, or until the next regular county election, whichever is sooner. Oh, I'm Commissioner Peterson. If you're on this side of the table too, just holler at me.
Mr. Chair, we might ask council to elaborate on this. I know that the commission during my tenure enhanced the provisions that are used to fill vacancies. And you might also elaborate what the impact of that action is versus that being part of the charter.
Shortly after the charter was adopted by the voters, as you've noted, the board recognized that while it said had this provision about vacancies, it didn't have any procedures as to how that was going to happen. So the county commission at that time, and again, it was around 2004 or 5, adopted a fairly lengthy resolution that sets forth the process and the procedures whereby for both commissioners as well as the chairman, what are the processes to fill those vacancies on both an interim as well as a long-term process. So again, this was silent in the charter really on this and left it to the procedures to be adopted, and those procedures remain in place. And I can't recall if they've been we've had to use them, but I can't recall. I don't think so.
Would you circulate those to the commission?
Oh, I'd be happy to
following?
do so, yes.
Okay. Section 3.04 deals with primary elections. If there are ever more than 2 candidates for a position, a primary is held to reduce the number of candidates for the general election to 2. That's generally what happens with respect to section 3.04. Section or Article 4 is regarding the county manager, and 4.01 authorizes the commission to appoint, based on education and experience, a professional county manager as the chief administrative officer. And the commission establishes the salary of that county manager. We heard earlier twice from our current county manager, Penny Postoke Ferguson, whom I believe would be the 3rd county manager under this form of government after Mike Press and Hannes Zacharias. 4.02 is what to do in the absence of a county manager, in which case the commission may designate a qualified administrative officer within the county to assume those duties during periods of absence or disability. And if we're talking about minor changes, that probably ought to be an or, absence or disability, as opposed to both. Section 4.03 of powers and duties of the county manager. And again, there are 10 bullet points for what the county manager is charged with doing. And it's basically as indicated earlier, the county manager is the chief executive officer of the county to implement and administer and manage the policies and resolutions of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm going to move on to Article 5, Section 5.01, General Provisions. Article 5 is the administrative departments and organizations. And it provides in Section 5.01 to have separate departments and divisions within the county. And the departments and divisions have the responsibilities provided by the county commission or by the county manager. Section 5.02 establishes department directors to run each individual department. Those are appointed by the county manager and responsible to the county manager. The positions of chief counsel and internal auditor remain under the authority, direction, and supervision of the commission. So those two positions report to the commission, the county commission, and not to the county manager. Did I say that right, Cindy? Okay. Section 5.03 deals with reorganizing the county government administration and establishes a process whereby the county manager may recommend such reorganization, but it must be approved then by the county commission. And in any reorganization effort, there is a notification in by publication and a public hearing. So that the public can weigh in on the reorganization. Section 5.04 deals with governing boards of some of the bodies we've seen in our County Government 101, library system, Parks and Rec, Johnson County Mental Health, Developmental Supports, and the Airport Commission. Those governing boards are appointed by the county commission for a specific term. And each board then is responsible for selecting its executive director from basic qualifications and experience levels determined by county personnel guidelines. The executive director of those departments then implements and administers policy provisions made by those boards with certain defaults, I guess you'd say, back to the county's overall policies for personnel and accounting and auditing and finance. Section 5.05 provided that the county clerk, the register of deeds, and the county treasurer would become appointed positions, not elected, if this charter was adopted, which it was in 2000 by voters of Johnson County. The county sheriff and the district attorney would continue to be elected positions as they are today.
Mr. Chairman.
Fair?
Yes. This is another section that really describes what is now history. And it seems to me that it would be beneficial to clean this up, leaving only those persons other than the commission who are elected in this section and moving the rest of it either into a new section 5.05 or otherwise making clear that these people now work for the county manager.
Great, I understand them and appreciate that. I don't think that's those are things we can recommend to the commission to take care of. It's not something that we can strike from the charter within our purview.
All of these ideas that you have would need to come forward in the form of a proposed amendment to the charter that we would place on the ballot next November. Or, I mean, technically the Board of County Commissioners can do those changes with 5 votes, I believe. supermajority, the Board of County Commissioners can change the charter, can amend the charter on its own, on their own.
Chairman, that's just about the next section you're to get to is how the charter may be amended. There's two ways to do it, and you're referring to one of them, which is the 4/5 vote of the county commissioners, and that still has to go to the voters.
Okay, they can put that on the ballot if 4/5. And what is 4/5 of 7? Am I right that it's 5? It's all six, it's 6 out of 7? Okay, so 6 out of 7 Board of County Commission members could place an amendment to the charter on the ballot. All right. Moving to Article 6, general provisions, 6.01 is the section about how the charter may be amended. And it is by a 4/5 vote of the commission placing something on the ballot, and then that ballot initiative passing, or this charter commission may propose amendments to be placed on the ballot. 6.02 is the effect of the charter, again, shall be liberally construed in aid of its declared purpose, trying to make sure it is interpreted in a way that furthers the function of county government. 6.03 is a charter review commission. A 7-member standing charter review commission shall be appointed at least and shall meet at least annually for 5 years after the effective date of the charter. Mayor's Walk, this is another one that is superseded by history if we're looking for simply administrative cleanup. 6.04 is why we're here. The future charter commission, every 10 years, a charter commission shall be appointed. It establishes kind of the general rules about how we are to meet, what we are empowered to do. Are the appointment powers to create this in the statute, Cindy, or are they in here? They must be in the statute.
You're correct. They are in the statute, the specific who the various members of the commission, the representatives shall be is statutory.
And I believe on the website, again, if you look at the website for the membership of this commission, there are 25 of us. We're all volunteers. It lists on the website, I believe, Ms. Sater, that who appointed each of us to be on this commission. Okay. Article 7 is transition.
Mr. Chair, sorry,
Yes.
Brenda Sharp. I had a question about this. I think it's implied, but I wondered if there might be an opportunity for legal to clarify this for us. My assumption has been that each of us is appointed by our respective appointing authority. However, we aren't deemed an agent or instrumentality of that individual. We are in fact expected to act as independent members and thinkers of the Charter Commission. Is that your understanding?
Yes, that would be my understanding also.
Thank you.
Other questions about, oh yes, Mayor Michelson. 6 point, whatever it is on Article 6. If you mayors could just get along and sit together. I'm kidding. Mayor Boehm and Mayor Michelson are separated by 2 chairs.
He sat down second. I was hoping he'd sit here. We're talking a lot about the scope of our authority, and I was just maybe wanted to confirm and clarify what I'm looking at in the middle of that paragraph in section 6.04. I guess it's the 3rd bullet point. And then right in the middle, it says that the report shall include recommendations of the Charter Commission and such other information deemed important. And the recommendations may include suggested changes in the administration of county government programs and activities. It may also include proposed amendments to the charter. So I know we've focused on the role of this Charter Commission as being proposing amendments, but it looks like, to me, it's pretty clear we're also empowered and perhaps even asked to make administrative and other recommendations to the county. Would that be a fair reading of that, Chairman?
Absolutely. I think, and for the public, that's important because we have the power to put something on the ballot, but we also have the authority and power to make recommendations with respect to, I guess, any aspect of county government that we want to weigh in on. And it's not exactly clear from this. Well, I guess it is. All recommendations have to have a majority vote. So 13 people on this commission can make recommendations to the county commission or place that amendment on the ballot.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Article 7 are the transition provisions, and that was again in place to ensure a continuation of county government pending the adoption of this and then transitioning to the charter amendment if it was adopted on November 7th, 2000, which it was. So it is, again, what is in Article 7 has been accomplished. Are there any general comments or questions about the charter and what we just walked through? Again, the form that has been prepared is in the form of a proposed amendment. I think we may get that out and say proposed amendment or proposed recommendation. If you have a recommendation that is short of amending the charter, we want to hear it. So we can have either that or have a new form that's just for recommendations. I think the question about placing something on the ballot is a little more weighty question than making recommendations that the Board of County Commissioners might or might not take up. We have the ultimate power to put something on the ballot if it's in the form of an amendment to the charter. But I think that's a good point, Mayor Michelson, that we ought to consider both as we're going through this. And we have received some proposed amendments. They've not been circulated yet. As you know, probably remember from the previous schedule, we were hoping maybe at this meeting to start discussion about proposed amendments. And under our process, a proposed amendment will be proposed by the person nominating it, explaining it, and then we will have an initial discussion followed by a vote. And if there are 9 votes from the 25-member commission, it will move on to a more detailed discussion and debate before we would take any final vote to see if there are 13 votes to put it on the ballot, or I guess in this case, to recommend it to the county commission. So what we need to do is I need to continue to urge you to submit your proposed amendments or proposed recommendations if you have them, so that we have them ready to go. If we can accomplish public hearings on October 11th and October 27th, then I would like the first meeting in November to be an initial, at least, listing of amendments that folks have submitted or recommendations that have been submitted, and potentially the initial discussion of those in the order they were received. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you kind of outlined how you want us to handle amendments. How would you like for us to handle recommendations?
I think the easiest way is the same manner, and that's why I use the same form. If you have a recommendation, what is the recommendation about county organization or government or administration? Why is it necessary? The difference would be, I think our current form has asked what section of the charter is going to be amended, and that would not apply. So the form says proposed amendment to the Home Rule Charter, and I think we'll do a separate form that says proposed recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners, so that we can separate those two. I think it's probably more important for us immediately to get to proposed amendments, and maybe we say proposed recommendations for the second stage. I'm open to suggestions, but rather than mixing and matching and maybe confusing your chair or the public, go through proposed amendments first, and then go through proposed recommendations.
And is there a deadline by which you want to receive recommendations or proposed
We
amendments?
do not have a deadline at this point, and I think we're gonna need a deadline because we do have a deadline of submitting our report in, is it late February? I mean, my goal is I think I put in the email was, I would like to have us by year end have decided whether we're gonna put any amendments on the ballot and whether there are gonna be any recommendations. If we need January to draft a report, or if there are minority reports, we can do that. I'd rather not be into January still deciding whether or not we're gonna put something on the ballot, because it's gonna crunch us up against our statutory deadline for a report.
I'd like to make a comment at this point, if it's okay.
Certainly.
As I've read this, I get the spirit of it to me is that if the public is frustrated with the BOCC, this is a means by which they can make changes. And I think that is what was part of the underlying frustration of what 6 of us stayed and heard last week. And I know that it was not an official meeting, but we certainly heard a great deal of frustration and hopefully dissipated a great deal of anger, to the point that at the end of the time, after the people spoke, there were apologies that were spoken and so forth, because they realized that their conduct was out of line. But I think if we can see this process as a means by which we hear the public's dislike or frustration, and be sure that we accommodate some means of addressing those frustrations.
I agree 100%. And I really think we were prepared to do that on September 13th. We'll be prepared to do it on October 11th and October 27th. I've been to enough meetings in my life where the public was frustrated. I think our job is to hear that frustration. Our job is also to educate about what powers there are and there are not. And that's why I think a clarification on the agenda between public hearing and public comment, so people don't come here thinking they're going to be able to speak and it's not a public hearing. But we're going to have 2 public hearings. We're obligated to have 1. We will listen. I mean, one of our questions that we've talked about in the executive committee is, if we say 5:30 to 7:30 and we have 500 people that want to speak, how long do you folks want to stay? If we do 3 minutes each, we would be there until midnight. And we're going to have a limit in the venue. But I'm not saying we're only going to have 2 public hearings. But I think you all received the email packet, the 3 separate packets that Linda sent out. I flipped through them. I will certainly entertain, and this commission will entertain 500 people getting up and saying the same thing about the same topic. But I think there are ways to do that with how many in the audience want to say the same thing. So we're gonna accommodate them. I mean, nobody on this commission has ever suggested that we weren't going to have a public hearing. In fact, from day 1 or day 2, we've said we're going to have 2 public hearings. I think the question now is, can we have public hearings in a way that accommodates people of differing views on what is really a singular public health matter, and that's this. And I hope we can, because we want to give anybody the opportunity to participate. And I think as you pointed out, participating in person is a more effective manner than participating by Zoom for most people. I think it's easier for us. And so I want to give any citizen the opportunity to appear in person in a way that they feel safe and comfortable. And that will be our goal. And if it takes a 3rd public hearing, we'll find a way to do a 3rd public hearing. So, yes, Tedrick.
Mr. Chair, thanks. Just thinking about the order of things, if we are going to vote with 9 votes as to whether to go forward with an amendment, or I guess a recommendation as well, when is it we want to hear from the public once they know what we're considering? So we could hear from the public after we've decided with our 9 votes what we plan to debate further, or we could wait until we've had that debate and decided and voted on what exactly we're going to propose to be on the ballot, or decide whether to. But I think at some point, I mean, the people that were here the other night were told, truthfully, we don't have any proposals or motions before us. Once those come before us, I think the public needs an opportunity to be heard at some point in time.
I don't disagree with that. And that was what our first plan was. Here's my dilemma, and it's really all of our dilemma. We can have 2 public hearings to accommodate citizens who want to participate in person, who have a difference of opinion on whether or not masks are a public health benefit. And we can hear their ideas, then we can seek proposed amendments, and we can vote on whether or not those are going to go forward with the 9 votes. And then we can have 2 more public hearings after that, so that we can accommodate those same folks in a way that they feel safe and comfortable. And we had intended for the first public hearing to be, here's what I'm upset about, here's what I'm concerned about, here's what I think would be beneficial to the county. Then we were going to figure out what ideas had 9 votes, and then we were going to have a second public hearing. Because we lost the first public hearing, and we apparently need 2 public hearings to accommodate all citizens and give all citizens a chance to be heard in person. We're at the dilemma where if we want to do what you suggest, which I don't disagree is a better way to do it, you guys are all volunteers, you've committed to this, and we can do it that way. I'd be open to that option. That would mean that if we hold a second hearing on October 27th, our problem is then we have a couple meetings to discuss amendments to see what gets 9 votes. And then we're in December. And then we're holding 2 public hearings in the holiday season. Or we wait till January and we start running into a deadline. So I don't have any magic wand to wave. And it may be that we don't have to make that decision today. We have the first 2 public hearings. We go through our proposed amendments and proposed recommendations, see what comes out of that, and then see if we think we need another public hearing. I think we all have a sense of what the issues are going to be, and we have a sense of where the public's going to be. That doesn't mean we're not going to listen to the public. But I think maybe we just defer that discussion until a later date. But I'm not saying we won't have more than 2 public hearings. I think we get these 2 out of the way, see how they go, see what proposals we get for recommendations and amendment changes, and then we can address that.
But with the relatively short time frame, I think the sooner we come up with deadlines for submissions amongst us, maybe a date for when we're going to take the votes on what goes forward with the 9, and then, if what we're talking about is a hearing after we've made those decisions, a third public hearing to hear what people say about what we're recommending in terms of changes to the charter or no changes. I would like that to be part of our plan as opposed to sort of up in the air. And I understand it creates scheduling and other difficulties.
Ms. Dunham, could I ask a question about the Kansas Open Meetings Act? We cannot have Zoom here. We cannot have Zoom meetings only because we're not under the emergency order. Can we have can we have the public hearing by Zoom only? So if you wanted to participate, we have to have an in-person public hearing.
It's still subject to the Open Meetings Act, the public hearing is.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought. So, and I think we can proceed with that notion, but with the idea that we may have to have 2 public hearings after anything goes forward, because what I've been accused of already, perhaps unfairly in my opinion, but will not be accused of in the future, is not giving everybody in the county, regardless of their view on masks, the opportunity to present in person. Because neither side gets to exclude the other side, in my opinion. And I know there are more than 2 sides. There are all kinds of opinions on this. So I think that probably means, and we've got some time today, so we can kick it around. If we're going to have the second public hearing on October 27th, let's assume we pull that off. that should inform the commission about whether or not you want to make propose an amendment. Some are already in, but propose an amendment. Our next meeting would be November 8th. So is that a sufficient amount of time to have? Oh, yes, Kyle. Mr. Russell. No, it's not. I don't think it's on. It sounds like.
We cannot hear on Zoom. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah. I don't know if this is something we would need to vote on or not, but I might suggest, I think this may be along the lines of where you were going, Mr. Chair. But a deadline of November 1st or thereabouts, the Monday before our November 8th meeting, to submit proposed amendments and recommendations. I don't know if all we're doing is taking an initial vote on all those on November 8th. I don't know why we couldn't get through all of those initial votes on November 8th and then determine at that time whether to have one or more public hearings after that before we take final debates and votes.
My general thought was that I don't know how many we're going to get, so I don't know if we can get through all of them on November 8th. And I do, although we have a two-step process, I want to make sure that first step, whereby a proponent of an amendment or recommendation is trying to get 9 votes, I want to make sure that is sufficient for the promoter of that recommendation or amendment to make their case. I mean, we're going to have a fuller discussion later if they get 9 votes, but so I don't have a problem with November 1st of getting proposed amendments in. I also am not going to, well, this commission would decide, but I'm never going to put a firm deadline on that says if you submit something after that, I'm not going to put it on the agenda or bring it to the commission for the commission to say, I want to hear that, because something might come up. I doubt it, but I want to make sure that if 13 members of this commission, as I said on the night you elected me chair, 13 members of this commission can overrule me on anything they want. But is everybody kind of comfortable if we did November 1st, at kind of a semi-hard deadline for getting in proposed amendments or proposed recommendations? Yeah, I mean, I think that would help us be prepared. We can get those out for the November 8th meeting. And we can, at that meeting, review those in the order they're received. There may be some that are duplicative. My initial thought was we don't circulate any of them until we have all of them. That's, again, subject to what you all think is the better way to do it. If we circulate them, somebody might say, yeah, I support that, and maybe add their name to it, co-sponsor it, if you will, or we can simply circulate all of them once we get them collected on November 1st.
I think there might be some synergy between.
Well, Vice Chair Rattan just said she would prefer getting them all at once.
I would prefer to get them all. I think there may be some synergies between amendments. So to collect them all and to put them into groupings would be most efficient for our group, I believe.
Anybody here have strong feelings? Mayor Michelson?
I don't have strong feelings, but I was kind of thinking about some advantages to sharing them as they come in. I mean, somebody's going to be looking at them, and that gives that person, presumably you know, sort of a heads up on what's coming, and the other members in the public have to wait. And one advantage of that is people can think about those things longer, and you could avoid duplication. If you see somebody submitting something that you're comfortable with that you are going to submit, you don't have to. So I see advantages to doing it that other way too, and I would have leaned that way, but I don't have super strong feelings about it either way. I just wanted to point out those potential advantages.
I am happy to circulate them as they come in. I know Linda will do that. What I don't want to do is in any way chill somebody's willingness to submit an amendment early or by the deadline. And I don't know the best way to do that. So I'd like to hear from everybody else. I think we have 5 proposals now that have been sent to me. I have opened one of the PDFs, but have not shared them with anybody else. So what would be your preference? Maybe I'm just going to ask for kind of a straw vote. Raise your hand if you'd like to get them as they come in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Karen raised both hands, I get. And who would prefer that they be circulated all at one time? 2, 3. Oh, how about you folks on, if you're on Zoom, could you want to weigh in on this? I can't see your hands or you.
This is Brenda Sharp. I don't feel strongly, but I would prefer, I think my preference would be to see them as they come in. I have a question, kind of a point of order for our legal counsel. At what point are proposals submitted and public comments submitted that have been distributed to all of us? At what point are those documents part of the public record? And could we not, as part of the second round of public hearing and reaction, if you will, to our recommendations, could we not seek written submissions of comments and in addition to maybe a public hearing, but giving people that option, but allowing the public to see those as they come in? Is that an option for us, or is that not? I'm a little confused on that.
Well, first, let me emphasize that whatever you direct staff to put on the charter website, or to, if you ask Linda to distribute any information to the Charter Commission, staff will take those directions and distribute those. So first and foremost, it's what you direct staff to do. And as far as the written comments, now that's, and I'm looking at Linda, that is on the charter. Is that on the charter website? You can submit the written comments.
You can submit the written comments on the contact form on the Charter Commission website. The comments that come in that form are not posted on the Charter Commission website for the public to see. Those are distributed out directly to the Charter Commission
And
at
to
this time.
And then to confirm, then staff takes those packets that you got of the comments and distributes those. And we will take whatever direction you provide as you want us to do with those.
Did that
Well, I
answer your
guess
question,
I
Brenda?
I would propose that, given that in a public hearing, when people are coming and speaking and they've registered presumably and make their comments, that's being recorded. Whereas these other comments that are coming in are just, from my viewpoint, kind of going into the ether. They're coming to us, but they're not coming to the rest of the public. So I'm curious about how we might shore that up so that other members of the public can see what's being weighed in on by their fellow citizens.
Which would mean posting on the website every comment that is received by the website. And I don't have a problem with that. I think we had 400 pages in the 3 pieces that you circulated yesterday. They were all 118 to 120 pages of the 3 packets. So
Are you asking, I think we have a,
So could we not just post the PDF packet each week, or whatever it is? Like this week, it's 3 packets. I mean, that's one way to do it.
anybody have a problem with posting those packets? What I don't want is Linda to have to, and the county to have to worry about posting every one as it comes up. But once a week or once every 2 weeks, you've been compiling those for us. Once they're distributed to us, post them on the website under the resources page.
Mr. Chairman, this is Laura
Yes.
Klingy-Smith. Sorry, my voice is a little squeaky. I've got a sinus infection. I'm not sure I understand the purpose of posting those comments. Those are not being stated in a public meeting. Those are actually coming in through the website. And those people have chosen not to publicly come to our meetings and state what they're saying to us as a panel. So I'm not sure why we'd want to take all of those emails and post those everywhere. I'm not sure I understand the purpose of that.
I'm trying to give people the opportunity to submit comment in that fashion and because just as our addresses and individual names are made public, the individuals that are submitting those comments also have to submit an address and show that they're a resident, for instance. Just as
Correct.
people who are signing up for public comment are having to demonstrate that they're a resident of Johnson County in order to weigh in. And to me, it just offers us yet another vehicle to show the information and the content that we are using to bring to bear. Otherwise, I don't think we should put as much credence to those public comments that are coming in as we perhaps are if they aren't a matter of public record and they're not official in any way.
Well,
Let me
I don't
clarify.
think that a person not choosing to come publicly should be silenced because they're not comfortable coming to speak to us in a public forum and they'd rather do so in a private manner. They're still a citizen of this county and their voice should still be heard and listened to.
How would they be silenced?
Yeah,
This would
let's-
actually
let's-
give them that
Instead
opportunity.
of going back and forth, could we,
Sure.
I'm gonna wield my heavy gavel here. Let's not go back and forth. I think one thing we need to talk about is those comments, once they're posted on the website, they are a Kansas open record. Is that right, Cindy?
You are correct. And to clarify, we have been discussing these comments in an open meeting. They've been distributed to all of you. And as such, if an open records request was made for these comments, staff would provide those.
So my view is if they're an open record under Kansas Open Records Act, there is no reason we shouldn't post them so that everybody can see the input from the public. That would be my view. Laura, go ahead.
I don't have anything else to say. I'm fine.
Is there any, Kyle, you were raising your hand a minute ago.
You asked the question I was going to ask, which is whether the public comments through the website were subject to Open Records Act anyway.
Randy, did you want to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Randy Hutchins. I would be in favor of all of them getting submitted at the same time. Also, I feel it would be good for each person submitting an amendment to present their amendment, do a short presentation as to why and the reason behind it. So I feel it would be most appropriate to do them all at once with scheduled presentations, whether it be one meeting or two, depending on the numbers that are submitted.
As I don't feel strongly about this either way. As I think about it, I mean, if we do it all at once, we might have 3 or 4 that are related in some fashion that somebody's going to have to make. I guess we're going to have to find a way to group them maybe. And that may lead to discussions about interpretation. So why don't we leave it that November 1st is the recommended deadline. We'll produce all of them as soon as they can be compiled. Why don't we say noon on November 1st? So Linda could maybe get those out that same day. And then we'll circulate all of them at that time. We'll be prepared to discuss them in order and Linda will order them based on when they came in. You have when they came in by email. So we'll address them in that fashion. Now, if there are 3 on the same subject, we're not going to address them 3 different times. We'll bring it together. Greg.
Question I would add to that is rather than when they came in, why not do it by subject matter? So that they're all organized.
Oh, I think that's fine. Right. And maybe we do it with the sections of the charter that they addressed and we'll go in charter order. Okay, that's a good suggestion. That's a better suggestion. Okay, so let me try to recap. I think we're through the agenda for today. October 11th, plan on a public hearing from 5:30 to 7:30-ish, maybe later. I think I saw where we have to be out of there by 8:30 in Olathe. Was that right? We need to be out of there by 8:30? Olathe? Okay, so we'll try to get as much time as we can to see how many people we could accommodate in that first meeting. Second public hearing plan on October 27th with a location to be determined. Recommend the deadline for any proposed recommendations or proposed amendments November 1st at noon. And then our November 8th meeting, we will begin discussing the amendments that have been proposed, with the proponent having time to present, and then a vote to see if there are 9 votes. And then we will move to the recommendations with the same order, with the same process, with the promoter of a recommendation having time to present, and then see if they get 9 votes. Everybody okay with that? Complies with what we were doing. And we will leave open for today whether there's another public hearing or 2 after we go through the amendments and recommendations. Linda will put that all very clearly in the minutes. It'll be easy to read. Give her a challenge.
Is time also TBD on the 27th?
The 27th, we had talked about before 5:30 to 7:30 for the public hearings. What we're trying to do is move those later in the day so people have the opportunity to do it after work, but not go late into the evening like some city councils do around here. So if, you know, we got to set those as an executive committee. If anybody can have strong feelings, let me know that that's the wrong time. I know we got some comments. I took off work to come to the one on the 13th. We're trying to leave an opportunity for people to come after work, but not before bedtime for young children and that kind of thing. So there's no perfect time, and we'll see how many we get through. Anything else? Anything from anybody on Zoom?
Yeah, great, Chris Iliff. I think your balancing of the time requirements for ordinary citizens and for government employees and for members of the commission is appropriate. And I think that's probably the best you can do. And as you say, there is no perfect time.
Thank you. Mayor Michael, well, let's see if there's anybody else on Zoom. Any other final comments on Zoom? If not, Mayor Michelson?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify, so you're going to hold on to the recommendations and release them to the commission after November 1st? Or what were
As
you
soon as
gonna
they can be compiled after they are received. And
Oh,
I'm going to
okay.
instruct Linda, don't send any more to me until the whole packet goes to me, just like the rest of the commission.
Okay, and I mean, again, not a big deal, but I may have misread it. I thought when you asked for hands, that more people here wanted to do the other method of that, to see those when they came in. That's how I read the straw poll. And I'm just wondering if those are public record as well. And if so, I'm the more I think about it, the more I'm wondering why we would keep those for that long, especially since you have some now.
I don't know if they're a public record, if they're simply received immediately upon receipt by Linda. My thought is that there may be a chilling effect if people may wait till November 1st to submit something because they don't want it disclosed earlier. I don't want to chill anybody's opportunity to make a proposal, whether it's tomorrow or November 1st. And that's my main reason for ignoring the straw poll. You're right. There were more people that raised their hands and wanted them to dribble out as they came in than wanted to hold them. But that was my decision at the time. So
Sure.
Jimmy?
2 things. One is I don't believe we got an accurate straw poll from Zoom. So I just to say, I don't believe we got an accurate straw poll from Zoom. And so I understand, Mayor. I just didn't know. I didn't hear the Zoom. And then the second part is, I don't know if we leave it to the executive committee, but when you get the amount of proposed, will you set a time limit on our own selves for presentations, depending on the amounts?
I think we'll have to, depending on the amount of the proposals.
Thought I'd ask.
But again, the process is important, and giving people the chance to promote their individual recommendation or amendment is important. We've established a 2-stage process. Because if I propose that everybody gets 2 chickens in the back of their house, I don't think I'm gonna get 9 votes, and we should spend our time on weightier issues. So that's, it's not gonna be a perfect process. It's not gonna be necessarily clean, and I doubt if it's completely easy, but that's what we're thinking. We have a deadline to do this. We've all given a lot of time to learn about the county, get where we are today. Now we're to the point where we are getting ready to paint or get off the ladder. So we're gonna have to paint expeditiously. Yes, Eric.
So I hear you on the chilling possible effect, but I'm also thinking now that if we're doing presentations from the submitter, that you could have 4 or 5 people preparing or thinking they have to prepare a presentation on the same topic if there's not an opportunity to coordinate that earlier. So I guess I would make a motion, to go the other direction on that, and not immediately, but release them to the commission within a reasonable few days after they come in for those reasons.
Motion to, for proposed recommendations or proposed amendments, to have those distributed to the commission, and I assume probably then posted as an open record within, let's say 48 hours of receipt.
Business day hours, sure. Doesn't have to happen over a weekend, of course.
Within 2 business days. Is there, I don't have a problem either way, like I said. So is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Mr. Hausch. Discussion, I think we've discussed it, but anybody have anything else they want to add? Don? Oh, Don does. Ms. Rattan. And then on Zoom, be ready.
I don't think there's a problem with distributing them as soon as we get them out. I think though, definitely at some point, we do need to compile things that are similar so that we're not becoming repetitive and we're making the best use of everyone's time. So either way, we can read them ahead of time, but yeah, when we come to discuss it, let's not repeat the same discussion and have the same talk repetitively. And if there are some people who have a lot of overlap, yes, they should get together ahead of time and quell their presentations together to, again, use time most efficiently.
We will still, for the November 8th meeting, group them, as Greg had suggested, into areas that make sense within the charter. So, all right, anybody on Zoom want to weigh in on Mr. Michelson's motion? Let's go to Zoom first, Jimmy, and then I'll come back to you. Anybody on Zoom?
Mr. Chairman, this is Randy Hutchins. I guess the reason I would prefer it being sent out together as well as presented, because otherwise you may come to some early notions of what you support and what you don't support without hearing the facts behind and the reasoning why on each amendment.
Thank you, Randy. Anybody else on Zoom? And I don't know who all's on Zoom, so I could do it by process of elimination, I guess. If not, we'll come back to the chamber. Jimmy Guyana.
Thank you, Chair. It's more of a legal question. So am I not under belief if 2 of us speak together about this, that it is subject to the sunshine?
The concern comes into play mostly with if there's a majority, would that be 13? And again, though, that can happen if 2 talk and then another, and one of those goes and talks to maybe 3 over here and 4 over here, or sends a text message or gets on Facebook, and you have the serial meeting that is the focus and concern so much today, is that you don't think you're talking to a majority, but before you've known it, so that if these get released, you do have to be very careful. And again, if it's talking about 2 presenters with the same proposed amendment, that's not the concern. The concern is if then they start doing serial conversations, whether in person, by email, by text, any social media, et cetera.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure of that, Chair.
Cindy, would it be fair to think there is at least a slightly less chance of an open meetings concern if they're distributed all at once. Where there's really 7 days for people to get together if they, or to mistakenly use an email thread as opposed to potentially 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks.
I suppose you could infer that, but it's the same concern whether it can happen in one evening. It can happen over several weeks. The serial meeting isn't limited to a specific time. I suppose you could argue, yeah, there's less opportunity, but maybe not.
Any other comments on the motion?
Mr. Chair, let me.
Oh,
Let
Ms.
me
Costa.
just, thank you. So is there anything to prohibit us from just releasing all of these at once? The day of the 8th and using that day, that meeting as a time to have a conversation about those that are grouped together? I mean, unless we come up with, dozens of amendments, there may be themes that are really easy to say, well, there, here's a theme of this issue. Let's have an open discussion about that issue. Those people who are for it can make their case. Is that an option rather than worrying about open meetings problems?
We have the option to do whatever we want with respect to how we have proposed amendments or recommendations presented to the body. I think it's better to have something in writing ahead of time, which is why the executive committee created the form. So you know something about the amendment and something about the reasoning behind it before you walk into the meeting. But we can do it either way. I think, let's get a vote on, okay, Tedrick?
I'm sorry, one last thing on this. Oh, can you hear me? One last thing on this. If those are submitted to Linda or the chair, are they already, if someone made an open records request for what was sent to Linda without us even seeing it, wouldn't that be an open record as well, perhaps?
I'd want to, before answering, I think I'd want to think about that a little bit, because at that point, they're just in the hands of staff and they haven't been distributed to anyone. Once they're distributed, obviously they're going to be open records, but I guess I'd like to reflect on that a little bit. And again, if you give us direction to go one way, we certainly would do that.
And I think this mirrors the public comments that are received on the website in a way. And so I really don't have a strong preference either way, and I appreciate the chair's concern. My view is, so far on these two sides, is to just err on the side of transparency, and we can, amongst ourselves, reserve our judgment on whatever we may see, knowing that the deadline is November 1st, and we're going to all have an opportunity to talk about it and ask questions.
I think that was in support of the motion.
Yes.
Okay. All right, the motion is to distribute proposed amendments and recommendations to the commission and thereby making them also available on the website as I would see it. Is that fair, Eric? Within 48 hours, within 2 business days of receipt, with still the recommended deadline being November 1st at noon. Anybody have questions about the motion? Because we're going to do it by roll call so that since we have a number of people on Zoom. A yes vote means we'll send them out as we go. A no vote will mean we are back to distributing them all at once on November 1st. So Linda, would you call the roll?
At this time, I still have Wendy Bingesser and Jane Dirks not available. So please speak up if you are on Zoom and I have not seen you. Mike Bain. Karen Brownlee. Vicki Charlesworth.
We're unable to hear the other votes on Zoom,
Okay,
just
I'll
by the way. I
repeat.
don't know if that's possible. If you
I'll
could
repeat those as they have said them to confirm. I have Mike Bain, no. Karen Brownlee, no. Vicki Charlesworth,
No. Did you hear me?
1 second, please. We had technical difficulties. Vicky Charlesworth,
No.
Jim Denning,
Jim Denny, no.
Jim, that was a no.
Was a no.
Jimmy Gaona, Jimmy Gaona, no. Tedrick House,
Yes.
Tedrick House was yes. Randy Hutchins,
No.
Randy Hutchins was no. Chris Iliff, Chris Iliff, you are on mute. I will come back to Chris Iliff. Laura Smith,
No.
Smith was no. Joy Costin,
Yes.
Joy Costin was yes. Brent McCune,
Yes.
Brent McCune was yes. Eric Michelson,
Yes.
thank you. Ed Peterson,
Peterson, yes.
Ed Peterson was yes. Don Rattan, Don Rattan was no. Leslie Riveriello,
Leslie Riverola is yes.
thank you. Don Roberts, you're muted, Don.
Don Roberts, no.
Thank you. Kyle Russell, Kyle Russell was yes. Paula Swak, Paula Swak was yes. Brenda Sharp,
Brenda Sharp, yes.
thank you. Greg Shelton,
Greg Shelton, yes.
thank you. Greg Smith, Greg Smith was no. Zach Thomas,
Zach Thomas, yes.
thank you. Chair Musel, Chair is no. And do we have Chris Iliff? Are you available at this time? You were muted. Okay, we'll move on. There's no vote there. And did we have Jane Dirks or Wendy Bengezer? Chair, I have 11 yeses, 11 noes, and one that did not seem to be available on Zoom to vote.
And that was Mr. Iliff.
Yes.
Chris Iliff, before we move on, are you available to vote on this motion? Chair rules the motion's defeated, requires a majority of those voting, and dies 11 to 11. All right, is there any other motion before we adjourn with respect to how we will distribute those items, the proposed amendments or proposed recommendations? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Greg Smith moves and Don Rattan seconds to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Thank you to the members of the public that were here tonight. We are adjourned.